What's your name?
Natalie.
Hey, Natalie.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
So earlier you alluded to the dangers of polarization of ideologies, like more specific, like not being able to sit with conflict, because without being able to sit in conflict in a safe space and respectful space leads to war. And with like the ever-changing times and things such as like cancel culture being so prominent, I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on cancel culture and how to navigate those spaces when feelings are very high.
Yeah, so I think cancel culture is a bit overblown, right? I mean, the only people who truly get canceled are usually people who do some pretty hideous things.
I'm not so sure about that. So that's good. That's good disagreement right here.
Yes.
That's good. that's good. Although
now, to
he
be
is
fair,
wrong.
he would have disagreed with whatever I said. But we'll get to that in a second, because I do want to talk about cancel culture. I think there may be some elements there, but yeah, we might disagree on this. But here's what I will tell you. We were just in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. We had a tour stop there. There was an insurrection of love. And there were 4 of us on stage. It was me and Ryan and our friend T.K. Coleman and a guy named Ken Coleman, who you've probably heard on the podcast as well. And I realized, I didn't get to say this on stage there, so we might as well talk about it here. All 4 of us voted differently in the last election. And that's never even come up between us, right? Now, the underlying things, not our beliefs, but our values, those things come up all the time. And yeah, maybe Ken has a different path to get to the same values, but we end up there anyway. And so I think putting yourself in those spaces, not to disagree, not to agree either. I don't want to just be like, oh, yes, that's right now. Because then you don't feel good, you don't feel authentic, right? But what if I just want to hear you? What if I want to hear your point of view? Because whether or not it sways me, it gives me another perspective from which I can live my life. Now tell me about cancel culture.
Oh yeah. Well, here's a couple of things. This is a great question. I mean, it's on a lot of our minds. One of the things that disturbs us about people who think differently to us is not so much that they're other to us, but they expose our own otherness to ourselves. And what I mean by that is, if you believe something different to me, I either want to consume you, which is like if you eat something, it becomes part of your body, so I want to make you into my social body. If I can't do that, I want to vomit you out. I want to get rid of you, put you out of the community. Just like a child puts something in her mouth, and if she can't swallow it, spits it out. Or we could tolerate each other, like let's not talk, let's just kind of like work and whatever, but don't tell me your strange ideas. Or, hey, beneath all of our differences, we all, are taking from the same stream. Now, I think that's the worst one, right? Because in all 4 of these, in the first 3, I'm right and you're wrong, and in the 4th, hey, we're both right. What's most interesting to me about the other is that I think you're strange, monstrous, and weird. And then I see myself through your eyes, and I'm like, I'm a bit strange, monstrous, and weird, right? Like, I thought that the way I did things was completely normal, but now I see myself through your eyes. I'm decentered, destabilized. That's a bit weird. And that's a powerful experience. So sometimes I imagine, what would it be like to have a debate? You're, say, Democrat, I'm Republican. And instead of having a debate where you're the Democrat, I'm trying to make you Republican, you're trying to make me Democrat. I'm saying to you, listen, I have no idea why you're a Democrat. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you're not on my side. Help me see myself. What am I missing? And then you're the same. You're never going to make me into a Republican, but I must be missing something because I think you're nuts. What is it that you see in me that's a bit weird? And then we become instruments of each other's further conversion. Now, one other thing I wanted to say about this is a great example. I'm an apocalypticist, right? An apocalypticist, not a progressive, I'm an apocalypticist. A progressive person often knows where they're going and where things are headed, right? And so if you love someone who thinks differently from you, it's kind of a bit of a patronizing love because you know where things are going and you just kind of are nice to them, but you kind of know where it's going. An apocalypticist, apocalypse means the incoming of something you cannot know, right? It's the end of one world and the beginning of another. So an apocalypticist, you go in and you don't know what the future looks like. All you know is that you have to engage in the conflict. So in the Good Friday Agreement, the conflict, the troubles ended because all sides were going like, we need to get into a room together. And all sides had to go, we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side of this. We just need to engage in the conflict. And through this engaging in the conflict, the Good Friday Agreement, or the Good Friday Accord, was signed that was apocalyptic, that nobody could have imagined, that involved the disbanding of the entire police force. It involved the changing of, it involved lots of crazy things you would find hard to imagine. And just one example concretely. If you're in a relationship, right, and you've been going out for a long time, and there's all of these underlying issues, and you're not talking about them, right, and there's an affair, and someone's overworking, and the symptoms are coming out, and the child wetting the bed, or an anorexia, or in heart disease. The symptoms are there, but nobody's talking about them, right? A symptom, by the way, is the truth that you cannot speak finds a way to speak, right? So, whether it's stomach issues or fatigue or whatever, a symptom, which in French sounds like Saint-Homme, which sounds like holy man, which sounds like prophet, which tells you the truth. Your symptoms tell you the truth of your life that you cannot face yourself. So the anorexia, whatever, tells the truth. Anyway, you go to an analyst. Now, the analyst technically doesn't say, I know where your relationship is going to go. They go, I don't know, and you don't know. Maybe you are going to talk about stuff, and you're going to end up together. Or maybe you're going to end up not together, or maybe you're going to split up with the type of relationship you have but stay together, which is the most radical one. Often people break up with a person but never with the type of relationship they have with people, so they end up having the same relationship with lots of different people, when the more radical thing is to break up with the type of relationship that you have and maybe stay with the person. Anyway, the point is you don't know what's going to happen. All you know is if you raise the conflict to the surface and you all speak it out and you all put it out, something's going to happen. You can't stay the same. A new future is going to arise. A post-apocalyptic event is going to happen. And that is kind of what I hope for, is that we all kind of are a little bit more apocalyptic in our outlook and go, all I know is that engaging in the conflict is important. And if we do that, something novel will arise. Novelty is important. I don't know what's going to like, but something's going to arise that's novel and new.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about cancel culture a bit.
I think I'm.
Whatever question you ask me, I'll just say what I want to say. Yeah. That's what I said,
No, that was
a great technique.
Perfect.
You just answer whatever question you wish was asked. Yeah. I'm like in the middle between you and Peter, because when it comes to cancel culture, I have seen people get canceled where I'm like, you're the bastard. But then other people, I'm like, oh, that's a shame that like that. So I mean,
but can we maybe we get concrete with it, because Harvey Weinstein, cancel him, but he's not being canceled; he's being put in prison. So like, if that's what we're talking about, great.
Yeah.
The justice system canceled him, right?
Yes.
But who are we talking about? Who has been canceled unjustly? And what have they been canceled from? And the reason I'm asking this is because quite often what we see is that you have a YouTube creator who has been demonetized. And it's like, okay, so what? Like, first off, yay, now you can't run fucking ads on your channel.
Yeah.
Right? But also, like, so what? You expect that some major corporation, they're supposed to curate advertisements on your behalf? And because you said some things that were incendiary that they didn't like, of course, if a corporation doesn't like you, they're not going to support you, right? And so I think quite often, maybe the way that I would say it is this cancel culture stuff is overblown by people with megaphones who say, oh, I'm terrified of being canceled. Well, you're not owed anything by these major corporations. And if you want to be in bed with these gigantic, major, multinational corporations, you got to play by their rules. If you don't, then you can do what Ryan and I do. We're not beholden to anyone. And because we're not beholden to anyone, I don't have to watch what I say. I don't have to worry about, we don't even monetize our YouTube channel because I don't want to have to worry about that.
Yeah. So the answer is, if you don't like cancel culture, just don't be cancelable. don't put yourself in a position where you can be canceled.
Yeah, don't partner with anyone who can cancel you.
Yeah. How do you feel about cancel culture? What brings this up for you?
I was more like focusing on the underlying, what I think are the underlying issues where if we are so quick to cancel, and I don't have anyone in mind, but if we are so quick to cancel someone, that we kind of break that, like, there's no bridge between being able to have a conversation
Yeah.
and understanding. Not that we have to agree at all, but
Right.
just having that safe space to be able to discuss so that we can learn and kind of meet halfway. And if we just cancel immediately, we kind of break that tie and are not able to rebuild that connection,
Yeah.
wherever that may lead.
Well, the biggest problem, like I see with cancel culture, is we put our politicians and we put CEOs and whoever else, movie stars, we put them on this pedestal, like they're supposed to have this level of morality that gets them to deserve to be on this pedestal. And the fact is like none of us are really on a pedestal. Very few of us. There might be some exceptions, Jesus Christ, the Buddha, like there are some exceptions that maybe you can put on these pedestals. But the problem is the 99.999% of us cannot put ourselves on pedestals. So I think that's problem number one. The second thing is when we participate in cancel culture and we become part of the crowd and we feel good when we see someone get canceled. What we're doing is we are really eliminating the opportunity for someone to like grow and to learn from like past mistakes that they've done. Now, there are certain mistakes that you're going to go to prison for. It doesn't matter how long ago you did them. But unfortunately, you find some off-colored joke 10 years ago on Twitter, and now we're going to cancel that person. I would much rather have someone in a position of power that screwed up, that was a shithead, and then totally learned how to not be a shithead anymore. Like that, I respect way more than someone who's up on a pedestal. So I mean, that's one of the major things, problems I have with cancel culture.
Pete, I don't know, man. I think that person who tells that 10-year-old joke or whatever, I don't think we actually end up canceling them, though. Like, I don't think that's really a thing there are some people who pretend to be outraged. So maybe the real problem is this sort of recreational outrage, and now that I can pretend that I'm upset about everything. Mm-hmm. Here's the truth. No one has the power to upset you. No one. Only you have the power to upset you, right? And so that is true, and yet we think, oh, this person really offended me. They really upset me, and therefore I also need to react to it. I need to do something about it. If that's what we're talking about with canceling, then yeah, I totally get it. The mobs of people who get really, really easily upset, sure, that's one thing. But if someone gets upset at me, I don't have to be upset back.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.